Picture yourself walking through the corridors of the Vatican at midnight. The marble floors echo with your footsteps as moonlight filters through ancient stained glass windows, casting colored shadows across papal portraits that seem to watch your every move. The air is thick with centuries of incense and whispered prayers, but tonight, something else lingers in the darkness. Fear. You're about to discover why the most powerful institution in medieval Europe, the Catholic Church itself, trembled at the mention of 9 knights who swore an oath in a crumbling chapel nearly 1,000 years ago. This isn't just another story about crusading warriors or religious politics. This is the tale of how a small band of monks with swords became so dangerous that popes lost sleep, kings plotted in shadows, and an entire order was burned alive to protect secrets that still echo through history today. The Knights Templar. Even now, their name carries weight, mystery, and a hint of something forbidden. But what you think you know about them barely scratches the surface of why they truly terrified the Vatican. Because beneath their white mantles and red crosses lay something far more threatening than military might or accumulated wealth. They possessed knowledge that could have toppled the very foundations of Christian authority. So settle into your favorite chair, dim the lights, and let your mind drift back to an age when faith and power were inseparable, when secrets were carved in stone rather than hidden in files, and when the wrong word whispered in the wrong ear could mean the difference between sainthood and the stake. You're about to enter a world where monks carried swords, where treasure meant more than gold, and where the church's greatest enemy might have been its most devoted servants. The year was 1119, and Jerusalem had fallen to Christian forces just 20 years earlier. The holy city was a chaotic mix of pilgrims, merchants, soldiers, and opportunists, all drawn by the promise of salvation or fortune in the land where Christ had walked. But the roads leading to Jerusalem were treacherous, filled with bandits who saw defenseless pilgrims as easy prey. It was into this dangerous landscape that 9 French knights made a decision that would reshape the medieval world. Their leader was Hugh de Payens, a nobleman from the Champagne region of France. Alongside 8 companions, he approached King Baldwin II of Jerusalem with a proposal that seemed almost laughably modest. They wanted to form a small military order dedicated to protecting Christian pilgrims on the dangerous roads leading to the holy city. No grand ambitions, no requests for vast territories or enormous funding. Just 9 men asking for permission to do God's work with their swords. King Baldwin, perhaps impressed by their piety, or simply grateful for any help securing the pilgrim routes, granted their request. More than that, he gave them something that would prove far more valuable than gold. He offered them quarters in his palace, which stood atop the Temple Mount, built on the ruins of what had once been Solomon's temple. And here, in this seemingly generous gesture, lies the first hint of why the Vatican would come to fear these knights. Because the Temple Mount wasn't just any piece of real estate, it was the holiest site in Judaism, the place where the Ark of the Covenant had once resided, where Solomon himself had communed with God. And if certain legends were to be believed, it was also where secrets lay buried beneath centuries of rubble and sand. The 9 knights called themselves the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. The name was fitting, for in those early years they truly were poor. They had no wealth, no vast estates, no armies at their disposal. Medieval chroniclers noted that they were so impoverished that 2 knights often had to share a single horse, an image that would later become part of their official seal. But something strange happened during those first 9 years in Jerusalem. While other military orders were busy fighting Saracens and establishing their reputations on the battlefield, the Templars seemed oddly inactive. There are few records of them actually protecting pilgrims or engaging in significant military campaigns. Instead, they appeared to be focused on something else entirely. They were digging. Beneath their quarters on the Temple Mount, the Knights Templar began an extensive excavation project. They worked in secret, telling no one what they sought or what they found. For 9 long years, they dug through layers of history, through the debris of successive conquests and destructions, searching for something in the bowels of the most sacred site in the ancient world. What were they looking for? The official records are silent, but the rumors began almost immediately. Some said they sought the Ark of the Covenant, the golden chest that had contained the stone tablets of the 10 Commandments. Others whispered of Solomon's treasure, vast riches accumulated by the wisest king in biblical history. Still others spoke of more dangerous quarry, scrolls and documents that contained secrets about the early church, about Christ himself, about truths that could shake the foundations of Christian faith. Whatever they found or didn't find, the Templars' fortunes changed dramatically after those 9 years of obscurity. In 1129, they emerged from Jerusalem as changed men. No longer were they 9 poor knights sharing horses and living on charity. They had become something else entirely, something that would soon make the Vatican very nervous indeed. They returned to Europe with a mission that seemed divinely inspired. Hugh de Payens and his companions travelled from court to court, preaching the need for a new kind of warrior monk, a soldier dedicated not to earthly glory, but to the defence of Christendom. They spoke with such passion and conviction that nobles began donating lands, castles, and wealth to their cause. But it was at the Council of Troyes in 1129 that the Templars achieved something unprecedented in church history. They gained official recognition, not just as a military order, but as an independent religious organization answerable only to the Pope himself. This meant they could operate across all national boundaries, collect their own taxes, and maintain their own laws. In effect, they became a state within states, a church within the church. The man responsible for crafting their official rule was Bernard of Clairvaux, one of the most influential religious figures of his time, and later Saint Bernard. His support gave the Templars instant credibility and divine approval, but Bernard's enthusiasm for the new order raises intriguing questions. What had the knights told him about their time in Jerusalem? What had they shared that convinced this learned saint to throw his considerable influence behind 9 formerly unknown warriors? The answer may lie in what happened next. Within decades of their recognition, the Knights Templar became the most powerful military and financial organization in Europe. They built castles, established banks, created the first international credit system, and amassed wealth that dwarfed that of most kingdoms. Their white mantles with red crosses became symbols of power that commanded respect from peasants and princes alike. But with power came scrutiny, and with scrutiny came suspicion. The church began to notice things, troubling things. The Templars' success had been too rapid, too complete. How does a military order grow from 9 impoverished knights to an organization that could finance entire crusades in less than a century? How do warrior monks become Europe's most sophisticated bankers, creating financial instruments that wouldn't be seen again until the Renaissance? And why did they seem to operate with such independence from papal authority, despite their official subordination to Rome? Picture yourself in the papal apartments during those golden years of Templar power. The Pope sits behind his ornate desk, reading reports that grow more disturbing with each passing month. The Templars have established their own fleet, their own diplomatic corps, their own intelligence network. They negotiate directly with Muslim leaders, sometimes making truces that contradict official church policy. They initiate new members in ceremonies so secret that even bishops are forbidden to witness them. But perhaps most unsettling of all, they've begun to attract accusations of heresy. The whispers started small, as whispers always do. Former members spoke of strange rituals conducted in the dead of night, of oaths sworn to something other than Christ. of knowledge passed down from master to initiate in words that would make any Orthodox Christian's blood run cold. There were rumors of a mysterious head they called Baphomet, worshipped in candlelit chambers far from prying eyes. Stories circulated of initiation rites that included spitting on the cross, denying Christ, and participating in acts that the church considered abominations. Were these stories true? That question haunted the Vatican for decades. Because if they were false, then the church was allowing vicious lies to spread about some of its most devoted servants. But if they were true, then the implications were far worse. It would mean that the church had not only sanctioned heresy, but had given it its blessing, its protection, and its power. The truth, as it often does, lay somewhere in the shadows between official doctrine and forbidden knowledge. You see, the Knights Templar had indeed discovered something during those 9 years of excavation beneath the Temple Mount. Not treasure in the conventional sense, but something far more valuable and infinitely more dangerous. They had found scrolls, documents, and artifacts that told a different story about the origins of Christianity, about the nature of Christ's mission, about the role of the church itself in preserving or distorting divine truth. These weren't necessarily heretical documents, but they were revolutionary ones. They spoke of Gnostic traditions that predated organized Christianity, of mystical practices that connected the human soul directly to the divine without need for priestly intermediation. They contained knowledge that suggested the church's monopoly on salvation might not be as absolute as it claimed. Armed with this knowledge, the Templars had become something the Vatican had never faced before, a religious order that was simultaneously inside and outside the church, loyal and independent, orthodox and mystical. They followed Christian doctrine in public while preserving ancient wisdom in private. They served the Pope while answering to a higher authority that they believed predated papal power by centuries. The more the church investigated the Templars, the more it realized the depth of the threat they represented. These weren't simple heretics who could be condemned and burned. They were learned men, wealthy beyond measure, politically connected, and militarily powerful. They had friends in every court, allies in every major city, and secrets that could embarrass or destroy any number of important figures. But the final straw came when the Templars began to act as if they truly believed themselves above earthly authority. They refused papal demands, ignored royal commands, and conducted their affairs as if they were accountable only to God himself. In the eyes of the Vatican, they had become not servants of the church, but rivals to it. The end, when it came, was swift and merciless. On Friday, October 13th, 1307, King Philip IV of France, acting in coordination with Pope Clement V, ordered the simultaneous arrest of every Templar in his kingdom. The charges were heresy, blasphemy, and crimes against nature. Under torture, many Templars confessed to the accusations brought against them. They admitted to spitting on the cross, to denying Christ, to worshipping strange idols, and to participating in unspeakable rites. But here's where the story takes its most chilling turn. As the Templars burned at the stake, as their assets were seized and their order dissolved, something crucial disappeared from history. The knowledge they had guarded so carefully, the secrets they had preserved for nearly 2 centuries, vanished as if it had never existed. Libraries were emptied, documents were destroyed, and the men who could have revealed the truth died with sealed lips. Jacques de Molay, the last Grand Master of the Knights Templar, was burned alive in Paris in 1314. As the flames consumed his body, witnesses claimed he called out a curse upon those who had destroyed his order, promising that both the Pope and the King would join him in death within a year. Both men died within months of his execution, lending an air of supernatural vengeance to the Templars' destruction. But perhaps the real curse of the Templars wasn't supernatural at all. Perhaps it was the knowledge that died with them, the understanding that the Vatican had destroyed not heretics, but guardians of truths too dangerous for the medieval world to contain. And as you drift towards sleep tonight, consider this final thought. In destroying the Knights Templar, the Church may have protected its power, but it also may have lost something irreplaceable. Somewhere in the ashes of that final pyre, amid the screams of dying men who had dedicated their lives to serving God, lay secrets that might have changed our understanding of faith, divinity, and the very nature of spiritual truth. The Vatican's fear had been justified, but in conquering it, they may have impoverished the world of wisdom that could have illuminated the darkness for centuries to come. Sleep well, and let the echoes of history whisper their ancient secrets into your dreams.